Let's go ahead and insert this into the segmentation rules. So now it's down here. And I'm simply going to click Add. Okay, we don't need any exceptions because it's going to segment at the semicolon with no exceptions whatsoever. Someone asked a question about segmentation, which seems pretty simple on its face. So let's have a look and see whether things are in fact as simple as one might assume. The question was how to go about segmenting on semicolons. And here's a copy of a test text to explore that possibility. Now this text here was imported using the default rules for English. There are a number of semicolons in it. In the first segment, we have a semicolon here after the word semicolons. In the second segment, we have 1, 2, 3 semicolons. In the third segment, we have another semicolon. This one does not have a space after the semicolon, as is the case with a couple of the ones in the second segment. And then down in the fourth segment, we have quite a number of semicolons with different environments. The first semicolon has a parenthesis preceding it immediately. And then we have another semicolon here between a couple of parenthetical structures. And here we have a semicolon followed by a space followed by a lowercase letter. And here we have a semicolon followed by a space, followed by a capital letter. Okay, well, the default rules do not recognize semicolons as anything that would trigger segmentation. So let's have a look at our rules and see how we might be able to modify those in order to segment on the semicolons. So we'll click Edit. Now, the simple assumption one might make is that we simply need to type a semicolon here in the segment end field. If we look at the advanced view, in the custom lists, in the list of end punctuation, we now see that the semicolon is the last entry in this list. Okay, let's go ahead and see what effect this will have on the segmentation of our text. So here we're going to re-import the text. The text itself hasn't changed, so we'll let it use the existing location. Okay, and let's have a look at this version of things. Okay, well, there's been a few changes. The first sentence segmented at the semicolon as expected. The second text group segmented after the first semicolon, which was followed by a space, but all of the subsequent semicolons did not serve as segmentation markers because there were no spaces following. In the default rules for memoQ, any end punctuation needs to be followed by a space and then some other stuff perhaps. Okay, now here in this one, there was also no segmentation occurring here. We don't have a space there. We also have a lowercase letter, which will be significant. Okay, and the last group of text only segmented on the last part, which had a space and then a capital letter following the final semicolon. So obviously, we need to do a little bit more than just add something to the end group. So let's go back and edit our segmentation rules again. Now I'm just going to erase this semicolon here since it's obviously doing no good. Now, in order to make the necessary changes, we need to go into the advanced view, and we're going to add a completely new rule. As it happens, I have this rule in my Regex Assistant library. So I'm going to click on the little button here to open up the memoQ Regex Assistant. And here I'm simply going to type the word segmentation and see what I've got. Okay, I've got something here called segmentation generic break. Okay, what does it say? Okay, substitute the text or regex you want to trigger segmentation in place of some underscore expression. The hash mark, exclamation point, hash mark is the memoQ coding for segmentation. Okay, that's where the breaks occur. It can also be followed by another expression. Okay, let's have a look at that. Okay, so it's this some expression, which I should substitute with something. In this case, I'm simply going to substitute it with a semicolon. Okay, and then after that, you've got the marker that tells memoQ to segment the text at that point. And there's nothing after that, so it should cause segmentation to occur every time a semicolon is encountered, regardless of what comes before the semicolon and regardless of what comes after it. So let's go ahead and insert this into the segmentation rules. So now it's down here. And I'm simply going to click Add. Okay, we don't need any exceptions because it's going to segment at the semicolon with no exceptions whatsoever. So we'll go ahead and click OK. I'll close my Regex Assistant library. And let's go back to the translations list and re-import that text. All right, and let's have a look and see what happened. And sure enough, every time a semicolon occurred, the text segmented. Very good. Now you can use that regular expression, which is stored in the library and which is part of the distribution that I use in the Memo Quickies Resource Camp course, to create a segmentation rule to segment after anything you want, including a particular word if you so desire. But in this case, we were testing it with a semicolon and it worked beautifully.